Assalamu alaikum. Myself Ibne from Department of Software Engineering, Daffodil International University. By this video, I'll present a 3-minute video presentation on my final thesis. The title of my thesis is A Framework to Diminish Software Development Cost by Implementing Smoke and Sanity Testing. I have done this thesis under the supervision of Mr. N.B. Soilerman, Senior Lecturer, Daffodil International University. So, let's talk about the outline of this presentation. At first, I'll talk about the background and motivation of this thesis. Then I'll talk about the objective and scope, then the goals, then the methodology, where I will talk about my proposed framework, and finally I'll talk about my experiment and the result. So let's start with a survey. According to a survey, it shows that software testing cost usually lies between 15 to 50% of total software development cost. That's not cheaper. So here we know software development lifecycle and software testing lifecycle. If we consume time from software testing lifecycle, the software development lifecycle will be reduced. So if we consume the time, it will bring a project in a minimum cost. So let's talk about the objective and scope. Here I am actually using a smoke and sanity testing methodology, which is an important methodology of software testing lifecycle. And by using this methodology, these two methodology, I will propose a framework. I will approach with a qualitative methodology, and finally I will validate the framework with the experiment. So the goal is very simple. At first it will reduce the time, then the target will be reduce the cost, and finally get a project in a less time and a minimum cost. So this is the proposed framework which I am actually proposing in this thesis. So I am using here smoke and sanity testing methodology. By using this methodology, I will execute two different cycles over here. At first I will start with smoke testing phase, which is STP. Under this phase, if it's permit, then I will execute a cycle with 6 specific steps. The cycle start with business requirement analysis, which is BRA, then the SRS analysis, then the SDS analysis. After the analyzing phase, I will start execute the smoke testing, which is EST, then prepare test status, it can be positive or negative, then prepare test report. If it's permit, then it will take on the sanity testing phase. If it's not, then it will start with a newly built function. So here in sanity testing phase, I will also execute a second cycle which has another 6 steps. The steps start with module requirement analysis, then the requirement traceability matrix analysis, which is RTM, then the sanity testing plan, then execute sanity test, then the compare result will with SRS, SDS and MRA. After the analysis phase, then the prepare the test status. So if it's permit, then it will go for the release for the next phase, otherwise it will start from the new build. So this is the proposed framework. So by proposing this framework, I will I have already execute it on a experimental project. Here I am considering a single module by this single module of that project. So I am considering here a single module which is called deals. So here in this module, I will start a software testing life cycle. Here the testing life cycle start with requirement analysis, then test planning, test case development, the environment setup, test execution, and test closure. So this column is representing the usual time it takes without using my framework. It takes up to 15 days, but after using framework we can see that the test case development time and test execution time have been consumed. So the total time is here 12 days. By calculating this time, the usual cost was up to $1200, but after using the framework the cost is $960. So here is the graphical representation of this experiment. Here this graph is representing module versus time visualization. The first line is representing without using framework, the time was get this much higher, and after using the framework, this second line is representing the after using the framework how the time have been consumed, considering the first one. So in this slide it is showing the module versus cost visualization. So same of that, the first line is representing without using framework how the cost was higher, and after using framework, considering the first one, we can see that this graph is representing the cost was get so much lower. So this was my actually the representation and the experiment and the result. And finally the contribution of my thesis was I have been proposed a framework to get the result, and the result can reduce the HTLC time. We have already seen that. And finally the reduced time will reduce the HTLC cost, and HTLC cost obviously reduce the HTLC cost because HTLC is a subset of HTLC. So this was my thesis. Thank you very much.